On the heels of this attack, and of course, President's announcement last week, his conversation with the Prime Minister in Australia. A lot to talk about here. How do you stop this? It sounds like the folks in Paris were as prepared as they could be. Speaking with Dr. Alex Del Carmen, of course, he's a terrorism expert and a law enforcement expert, of course, with the heading up the folks there at Tarleton State University, and of course, we've had you on quite a few times before, Dr. Alex Del Carmen. We appreciate you being on with us again. Snap your fingers and wave a magic wand and flip to a world where none of this happens. What are some of the things that we can do in the future to make sure that even with an attack like this where there were machetes used, I mean, you talk trucks, you talk guns, I mean, you take the weapon and replace it every time there's another strategy being used. In this case, what can we do? Because they're constantly moving and adapting, it seems like, at this point. And then secondly, what are the folks, what were they doing right there in Paris to stop this attack?
Good morning, Justin, and thanks for having me again. I think at the end of the day, when it comes to terrorism, part of the, if you want to call it the oxymoron, the contradiction that we're facing now is that we are really fighting an enemy that is highly adaptable. And by virtue of that, the enemy is going to use even third world-like type of weapons, like a machete, like a knife, a fork, while the rest of us are using AR-15s and satellite dishes to figure out where they are. And so it's a contrast between technology, advanced mindsets, and sometimes the primitive, stance of a terrorist that is going to harm you whichever way he or she can. As far as what we can do, I think situational awareness is important. I think the idea of knowing where we're going, what we're doing, and what kind of exit strategies they have. What the folks in Paris did right is they basically had what we call in the literature capable guardians. They had folks with weapons that were alert, that were blocking the entryways to some of the gift shops at the Louvre. And so by virtue of that, it was the right soldier at the right time to prevent this guy from killing innocent people.
So does that come down, as you mentioned, situational awareness, but does that come down to just having more manpower? And also, Doctor, I mean, you look forward to this weekend, big event here in the States. We have the Super Bowl. The world will be watching.
Right. So I actually live in Texas, as you know, and I'm very confident law enforcement folks in the state of Texas are going to do everything that they can do to prevent any kind of terrorist attack from taking place in our great state. So I'm not concerned. And I can also tell you that at the end of the day, the Super Bowl is planned a year in advance. And so you've got Homeland Security, you've got local law enforcement, you've got the FBI, and just about anyone that wears a badge in the area that's going to be showing up for this event. So I'm not concerned about the Super Bowl, but I am concerned about Monday, about Tuesday, about the everyday that takes place for the average American, and the fact that we're all vulnerable.
So when it comes to some of these suggestions and some of the things that we can do just as citizens, right, to be more aware, we talked about situational awareness. How do you preach that? This is a good question for you. How do you convince people of that when they're constantly running around, and I'm just as guilty at times, with their nose in their phone?
Right. So, at the end of the day, we're Americans, right? So we are used to a certain type of environment, a certain type of life. Most of us complain when we have the inconvenience of making a line at an airport and go through TSA.
Oh, yeah.
And so the reality is that we don't like the idea. We want to be secure, but we don't want to pay the cost of that security. So bottom line, though, is you're right. The cell phones and the distractions that we have and the fact that we don't even think about it. When we leave our home every day and we go to work, we think about what we're going to do, and we assume we're going to have a safe journey to and from. But most of the world doesn't live that way. If you look at what the Israelis do, for instance, they're situationally aware every day. Every citizen is a soldier. And at the end of the day, they live with that threat on a daily basis. I think our society has to come to terms with the fact that we live in a different era, and we have to train our minds, our habits, our characteristics, and the people that we love to be able to be aware of what's around us.
Dr. Alex Del Carmen, I appreciate you joining us today, Tarleton State University, and, of course, the Director of Criminology there. And we always, it's funny, I would I would like to talk to you during happier times. It seems like every time we talk to you, there's another one of these situations we have to talk about. But I do appreciate you being there for us today.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Have a great weekend and enjoy it. Nice enough to join us on the road as he's driving and on the phone, and appreciate you dealing with that.